Hi there, my name's Heather and this is the Ankara Book Club. Thank you for joining me here today. I have another book I want to talk about, and this book took me on a very interesting journey. Um, I wouldn't say it was particularly easy to read at times. I found that I had to read it slowly and honor the process that this book is both introducing and fleshing out very well. So the book is The Medicine Wheel by Barry Goddard. I had not heard of him before or followed any of his work, but he has a very interesting story and one that I could draw a lot of wisdom from. He talks about starting off as a Buddhist in his younger life and spending 20 years in that paradigm of thought. He then moves on to astrology and is an astrology practitioner. And then he works in shamanism as well. So I could really hear from his, I guess, movement through these paradigms, the wisdom and the experience that comes from that. And it comforted something in me around that it's not one paradigm forever. It is levels of evolution and awakening and awareness. And no paradigm is right or wrong. And particularly for me, I'm studying shamanism, I think always, but particularly right now, astrology has been an ongoing passion to simply receive and to learn about. So as he, and I know quite a lot about Buddhism, I used to follow Buddhism a lot when I was younger, but the way that he moves through all those paradigms and brings them into synergy, I guess, was very, very important for me. But what I like about this book, he talks about the medicine wheel, often called the wheel of life, and it's something that many shamanic cultures do. I think primarily American Indian and Inca and Mayan cultures used to use the medicine wheel. And it talks about the 4 directions that we use in shamanism and how to work through this process. So I found myself working through the book at quite a slow, segmented pace because I felt like I was going through those directions. When I picked the book up and I started reading it, I was in a new beginning that started with new experiences, new knowledge, a new framework. And I started with him in that book, in that new direction. And that was the East. And then as we moved down to the South, I went back into the child and the emotions and the earlier parts of my life and how they were synchronizing or telling me stories about this new beginning in my life. We moved around to the West, and then I've only just finished in the North, which is really about the elder and maturity and experience and the mind. And coming through that full rotation was really important. And there was a lot in this book around things that were related, but also stories that I could gain experience from. Not all of them were palatable in the beginning, but I do like some of his viewpoints and his opinions on how to work with shamanism in your life and how to be a shamanic teacher, which is something that I'm embarking upon. And how the part that I resonated with a lot was if you want to sit in front of people and be a teacher, you really have to be very knowledgeable and aware and understanding and integrated in your own shadow. It's not about sitting up there in front of people and pretending that you know more than they do. It's more that you sit up there with an intimate connection with your shadow and everything that is your weakness and everything that is part of your unconscious, and you really own that and sit with integrity in it. And he talks about how to watch for dependence in that situation and making sure that you're not convincing your students that they need you. You're really sharing knowledge and then not needing any kind of glorification or attachment in that. And I found that beautiful to read and very confirming. And he talks a lot about shamanic work being a true service to spirit. It's not something that we can force too much. It's not something that we can control or restrict. It's really something that we need to come and go with. And if spirit doesn't have enough students or clients for us, then we have to honor that. And if spirit starts sending us more clients and students, then we have to honor that. And he talked a lot about, if you want to do this work fully, then don't expect that you can do it full time or as often as your ego would like. It's a bit more of a give it all, and then know that it's not something you can do over and over and over again. It might be more one session a day or one client a week, and that really helped me to understand from his perspective and his wealth of experience how we can go against that natural flow and how this is something that we can't force or restrict in that area. So I really loved this book, but I would be honest to say it was difficult for me to read easily. It really drew me in and then pushed me out at times. And if I tried to read it when I wasn't fully present or I didn't have the capacity, it's almost like the book said, go away, it's not the right time. And I kind of liked that push-pull. I very much like when books teach me in a way that's not linear, because I think that's the beauty of these self-management tools is you can pick them up, you can read them any way you like. You don't have to read them front to back. You don't even have to read them quickly or slowly. You could read this over 10 years if you wanted to. This one took me about 4 months to read. And I don't read in a linear way. I don't read every day. I read when I'm called. And sometimes books grab me and I read them all the way through. And others might take me years to read. And I move in between different genres at times. So this was highly influential. I feel like it might be one of those books I might read again when I have a bit more experience, and maybe when I've been through a few medicine wheels and I have more relevance for that, I guess. But I wanted to, I mean, I've got flags and things dog-eared everywhere, but I wanted to read you this. I thought this was really important for people to hear, and me also. He's talking about different emotional states, and he's talking about anxiety primarily, and a place in his life where he went through a lot of anxiety. And I just liked this little take on it. He says, think about it as spirits. I have this spirit of anxiety visiting me. So as we saw in the South and the work of Eduardo Duran, invite the anxiety in, make friends with it, get to know it, and do this ceremonially. And then invite in this other thought form, a spirit that is free of this anxiety because it can see there is no good reason for it. And just let those two spirits live alongside each other. Keep calling them to mind over the months. You will forget sometimes and be consumed by the anxiety for a while. And you do not give the spirit of anxiety a hard time. You are sympathetic to it and not trying to force it to change. Just keep the two spirits living alongside each other and you will gradually change. I certainly did. After a year of this anxiety, it had much less hold on me than it did at the start. And I just love the way that that honors that we go through things and they're meant to be difficult and we're not meant to figure it out and we're not meant to not experience it. Hey, lovelies, if you're resonating with this content, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, helps out the channel, helps us to make beautiful content for you all. Don't forget to comment down below too if you want to share your experiences, ask us a question, and send in some requests. We'd love to know what you want more videos about. Once again, thank you for watching, and we love you all so much. It's a similar way to the way I've worked with different emotional states before, different coping mechanisms, different ideas. Whether it's the spirit of anxiety, call it in, and also call in anything that's not that, and notice that there's both polarities at once. You might call in the spirit of depression and speak to it as if it's its separate entity. It's not you. You're not a depressed person. You're a person that experiences depression at times as a teacher. This is one of the ultimate hacks, and really put in a very easy to understand way. You can also meet with the spirit of your coping mechanisms. You can meet with the spirit of alcohol. You can meet with the spirit of tobacco and have a conversation around, what are you here to help me with? How are you going to teach me? What wisdom can I draw from your perspective? And what parts of me are not feeling this and not aligned with this? I even ask the spirit of those difficult paradigms, how long are you going to be with me for? How can I be free of the shadow aspects of you? And when anxiety shows up, it's almost like that spirit or that person walking in the room and saying, okay, well, I can't always control who's in my environment. I can't always control the collective soup outside. I can't always control the conditions in my life, but I can work with them. So if anxiety or depression or coping mechanisms or stress is knocking at your door, let it in. Have a conversation with it. Why are you here? Is there any reason that I can work with that brought you here? Is there a way that I can make it more manageable for me? Are there ways that I can manage this part of my life without being further detriment to my life? And I think working in that way just helps us to engage with difficulty, because our knee-jerk reaction is to reject and personify. So we say, first, a level of denial in, no, I'm not anxious, I'm fine, I'm just, stressed and run down, or I'm just busy, that's all, just busy. To really admit that we've been experiencing sometimes crippling anxiety or quite torturous depression, first is acknowledging and admitting that and saying, yeah, this is really, really hard. And I really don't know why this is happening, and nothing I've tried has worked. And I'm really in the deep here. That moment creates relief. That moment is surrender. That moment is, okay, I give up the fight just for a moment to acknowledge where I am, and it's not ideal, and that's okay. And then we engage with the process as not going to be forever, but something we need to learn from. Because if we don't learn from it this time, it's probably going to knock on the door again and again and again. So it's really about breaking up the patterning and the sense of not being aware of what is happening, and then giving us a somewhat of an engagement or action plan around it. So I get a lot of my students to do this. I get them to acknowledge anxiety, depression, flag it, think about what other emotions have been involved and for how long they may have been stashing emotions in their body. Then we talk about engaging with the process, understanding that our guides would only give us these situations because we can handle it. And then we think about, well, if I'm not here forever, how do I manage my time while I am here? And how do I surrender, which means let go of fighting, let go of denial, let go of pretending it's not happening, and just say, okay, my anxiety is through the roof, and it has been for this period of time, and everything I've tried hasn't worked. Therefore, I obviously don't know how to heal or move through or manage this on my own. Therefore, I'm looking for support and I'm looking for help. And I know there can be shame in that, but shame is just another emotion that will dissipate as soon as we honor the situation. If we try and keep shame down and guilt locked in and all of these things we don't want to feel, then that adds to these quite alarming states of being. Shame doesn't last very long if you actually feel it and you express it out loud to someone. I'm ashamed that I need help. And usually that's because there's so many people worse off than me. Clear that, love that, it's okay. But sharing in a safe and boundary space is really important. And just admitting, okay, I actually don't want to be anxious anymore. And I hope this doesn't last forever, but I know I need to change because everything that I'm doing keeps this state of being in play. So I do recommend the medicine wheel, and it might be something you might need to work through slowly and work through those archetypes and those directions and those themes in your life, and then put it into your practical world, which is make a wheel, a medicine wheel in your environment and go through those directions, and maybe get the book there to help spark a few thought forms and to move through some difficult states. And there's a wealth of wisdom in there too. So this was a book that was written, I think, during COVID. So a lot of medicine has come out of that interruption in our daily life. And I love that. It's a matter-of-fact book. It's not sugarcoating anything. And it has a twinge of opinion, but the opinion is not so ego-based. It's just direct and blunt. And I really respect that. I think that's a nice way to put things out in the world. And he honors when he doesn't know enough about a situation, and he honors when he is still working on something. So I found it just a fairly real book by a real person. Not that other books aren't, it's just that he's not trying to be anything but himself. And I love that dose of honesty and integrity. So once again, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. It means we are motivated to create more content and are motivated to read more books and to support more authors and to give my evaluation or my reflection on those beautiful bindings of knowledge. So comment below, let us know how you're feeling. Join us in an offering soon, and we love you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.